This car came with some aftermarket washer bottle which was just installed here. Now this huge washer bottle was found on the Series 2 and Series 3. It was so big you only need to fill it up once and never again. I'll be installing a soft bag type which is original for the Series 1. It just fits in the front pod here. The bag is meant to sit in place here, however I'm missing the hooks. It looks like they've been broken off over time, so I'll have to come up with some solution. The water nozzle on the left came with the car, the one on the right is a chrome one which is correct for the Series 1. This car came with 2 holes for 2 water nozzles. Usually there's only one in the centre here, but as you can see I've got 2. I'll be running 2 different types of tube. One is a 3mm and the other is a 5mm. I'm using the 3mm on the nozzles, and to get in here with your hand is almost impossible with everything in there, so I'm quite lucky everything's out. Now with a large flat blade screwdriver you can adjust the angle of the nozzle. The jet of water comes out this little hole here, and to adjust the angle you need to loosen up the nut here, and then once you got in the right position, turn the screw and then it will be tight in place. Because this car will have 2 nozzles, I put a splitter in place. Now just to feed the 5mm tube through the grommet and just put it roughly in place where it's going to go, because I need to move stuff around a bit later, so I don't want to put anything too permanently in place. Because I had an aftermarket water bottle, the original connector has been removed, so I'm just going to remove this and put the original one back on. So I rummaged through the spare loom and I found the connector that works perfectly for this kind of a washer bottle. I now cleaned up the socket, and as you can see when you click it in place it fits quite well. It's actually moulded for this place and it's a little bit hard to get out, so it's clipped in there so it doesn't just fall out inside the pod. Now with the connector crimped back on with the original socket, I can just put on the 5mm tube and it's pretty much done and ready to go. I've recovered this relay block and mount because I want to use it for other stuff inside the car. These relay blocks click together, or you can use the actual mount, which I'll be doing. When you turn the key to start the car, all the power runs through the ignition and then through this connector. This connector is usually problems because it overheats and expands and melts the plastic. What I'll be doing is replacing this with a relay and just following the red cable down to here and then through the tunnel. So I'm going to pull apart this connector here, and you can see that the red cable here goes towards the starter and the other one goes towards the ignition. I'm just going to unclip them and then put another connector on to bypass them to a relay. I recovered these sockets from the other loom, so I'm going to use that for the bypass. So the original connectors just plug directly into the original sockets like this, and they look the part, and it's going to confuse the next person that ever has to work on this car. Now with the connectors on the recovered wire, I can just slot them into place. This blue cable from the ignition goes back to slot number 1 on the fuse box here. I'm going to be running an original cable back to the relay box to feed power back to the fuse, and then from the relay I'll have the trigger point on this one, which will just go back by another socket which I recovered. This way nothing has been cut or soldered. Now before I screw anything in place, I'm going to make sure that all my sockets are working and all my connections are correct. So I'm going to put this block in place and then run a quick test to make sure that everything I've done is functional.
Okay, so I'm going to test the relays, and you'll hear that click, and then so yeah, that's definitely working.
I've now finished installing the second fuse box and relay box, and I've just got this original cover here which I recovered, and it just covers up the fuses and the relays here. So underneath here we have a couple of different things. So this is the central locking module and just goes back to its own fuse here. On here I've got a relay for the slow and fast wipers, then I've got the ignition, starter and accessories like USB. I'll be using this USB module, and it has 2 little holes, so I can find a place to screw it in the car later. The other good thing is it has this connector, which means I can separate it and use it for something else if I want to in the future. And it's running on its own fuse which goes back to this relay, so it turns on and off with the car. I still need to take care of all those wires there and tidy them up as well. The central locking actuator just screws onto the side of the rod here. In this configuration the mechanical lock still works as normal. And of course I now have the benefit of central locking.
This is a switch from a Series 1, and they usually rock like this back and forth, but sometimes like this one it doesn't want to move, so it's really quite hard. What we want to do is take it off by undoing this little clip here and on this side and take it over the notch there. So it can be a little bit tricky to get it right, so we can get it over that notch. And then this side, once we got it off, you'll see in this case it's actually melted away. Now, what it should look like is that, so more of a round kind of side to it. It melts away because it overheats inside the switch. Inside here, you've got two little bits of metal that sit inside this place, and they rock back and forth. So effectively, this bit here rocks back and forth across this, and then that's what's causing the problem. So once you've got this fixed, you have to get these back in place on the rocker. I'm not sure if you can see here, but you can see inside there how it would rock back and forth. So clean that all up, and also just getting the right switch. You can't really replace these easily. You're gonna have to find a new cover or change it over.
But next time, I go over the heater box fan, tidy up these wires, and as always, thanks for watching.